Ya, Assalamualaikum. Apa khabar semua?
Salam sebaik.
Salam sejahtera.
Waalaikumsalam.
Baik, sir.
Semua sihat ya?
Sehat.
Okey.
Alhamdulillah. Sihat?
Ada yang terkena COVID ni? Harap tak ada lah kan? Ada seorang dia pelajar kita yang terkena tu. Harap kita doakan dia lah. Dia sihat. Okey, untuk hari ni kita ada satu topik very important for us as an OT, cognitive behavior therapy ataupun cognitive training. So actually CBT ni been founded by the psychologists lah. Psychologists, but we as an OT also we can use this CBT technique for our patient. So I will share to you all the lecture for today. CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. Okay, can you all see the slide?
Yes, doctor.
Yes, doctor.
Okay, good. So cognitive behavior therapy. If you see the tree itu kan behind kat bawah tu, we can see that this involve the person mind. The person mind. So involve psychology of the person. When talk about cognitive behavior therapy. So actually, what is CBT? In terms of the definition, CBT is a form of psychotherapy. It is a process of teaching, coaching, teaching and coaching, and reinforcing positive behaviors. So as an OT, also we going to teach our patients, and also we're going to coach. We train them to have a positive behavior. So CBT helps people to identify cognitive patterns or thoughts and emotions that are linked with behaviors. So when talk about behaviors of us, everyone, actually is linked to our thoughts and emotions. So CBT actually CBT help to what they call it, to improve the cognitive patterns through thoughts and emotion. So these thoughts and emotion actually link, and the behavior also. So when talk about CBT, three things, which is patterns, with cognitive, thoughts, and emotion. These three things link together. So this is what called CBT. So in at the picture below, when they discuss more on the CBT, the meaning is patients learn how to automatically identify negative thoughts. So we want to train. We want to train patient to identify negative thoughts. So some of them, because of their negative thoughts, they have pattern of behavior if they have negative thoughts. So we want to automatically identify negative behavior. And then they learn to recognize how this thought affect their behavior. So if patient able to identify and then they recognize that these negative thoughts affect their behavior, it's a highly practical form of therapy, and patients are given extensive homework. So when talk about CBT, we not only the process not only and at the department, at your clinical setting, but also patient have to do homework in order for them to have patterns, positive behavior. We have to give them a homework, so they can apply. When they able to recognize their negative, and then what the negative effect their behavior, and then we in CBT we want to change that from negative thought to positive thought, and then indirectly change their behavior and their emotions. So this is called CBT. When talk about CBT, who's the person that developed this CBT? It is developed by Aaron Bex. Aaron Bex is a psychoanalytic psychotherapist. He's a person. This is a father of CBT, Aaron Beck. So in early 1960, Aaron Beck developed an approach known as cognitive therapy as a result of his research on depression. I have to admit no Shaira first. Okay. So this Aaron, he did a research on depression. Then they developed this approach called cognitive therapy in 1960. In 1960, I haven't born yet. Of course, you all haven't born yet. In 1960, already have this CBT developed by Aaron Beck. So what Aaron Beck do in CBT? Aaron Beck observations of depressed clients reveal that they had a negative bias in their interpretation of certain life events, which contributed to their cognitive distortion. So they have these clients of depression, as you know, people who depressed, they have a negative bias in their interpretation of certain life events. So this thing contributed to their cognitive distortion. So Beck called it cognitive therapy because of the importance it plays on thinking. It is not known as cognitive behavioral therapy because the therapy employs behavioral technique as well. So this CBT have to employ behavioral technique as well. So they call it cognitive behavioral therapy. This Aaron Beck not only understand the negative thinking of the client, but also the therapy being employed to improve their behavior. This is known as cognitive behavior therapy. So, in terms of the medical uses, first at the beginning, CBT was originally designed to treat depression, but right now, CBT used in many disorders, mood disorders, anxiety, personality disorders, eating disorders, addiction, dependent, tic, client were having tic, and also psychotic disorders. They all can be used, CBT. A lot of evidence, I found evidence of post-traumatic disorders, anxiety. There is a lot of evidence highlight the effectiveness of CBT for these disorders. We will discuss at the end of this lecture there's 3 articles I want to discuss with you all regarding CBT. So types of CBT, in brief, a form of CBT which has been developed for situation in which there are time constraints on therapy sessions. So CBT, there is a number of sessions. There is a number of sessions. This CBT takes place over a couple of sessions that can last up to 12 accumulated hours by design. So if you do CBT with your patient, you must have a session, quite a number of sessions, and it can last up to 12 hours by design. So it's effective that you shouldn't do only once, but you must have several sessions. Okay, and there is also what they call it. The first one they call it brief CBT. Brief CBT. The second one they call it cognitive emotional behavioral therapy. Cognitive emotional behavioral therapy. So it's a form of CBT developed initially for individuals with eating disorders, but now used with a range of problems, including anxiety, depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and anger problem. So they call it cognitive emotional behavior therapy because this person, this client, usually they have emotional problem. So it combines aspects of CBT and dialectical behavior therapy and aims to improve understanding and tolerance of emotion in order to facilitate the therapeutic process. So they involve in terms of understanding and tolerate their emotions. So when they understand their emotion, when therapists understand their emotion, then they try to tolerate their emotion. So this can be a therapeutic process. So in this cognitive emotional behavior therapy, the aims to, in terms of emotion, we want to improve or reduce if they have emotional problem. So when talk about dialectical behavior therapy, is more on focus on teaching people strategies to help them live their best and most productive life. So in this cognitive emotional behavior therapy, therapists will come up with strategies for this client who have emotional problem to cope with their emotional problem. So this called dialectical behavior therapy. And then there is also, they call it structured cognitive behavioral training. So this structured cognitive behavioral training has been used to challenge addictive behavior, particularly with substances such as tobacco, alcohol, and food, and to manage diabetes and subdue stress and anxiety. So, you know that when talking about addictive or people who are addicted to tobacco, cigarette, alcohol, and food, they have addictive behavior. So this SCBT is more on structured training for people who having addictive behavior. Then there is also another type of CBT. They call it moral recognition therapy. Moral recognition therapy is a type of CBT used to help felons overcome antisocial personality disorder slightly decreases the risk of further offending. So people yang ada kes-kes kriminal, kes-kes jenayah, yang anti-social personality, they use this moral recognition therapy. So they want to, these people having a moral issue, dia tak ada moral dalam masyarakat, kan? So they want to they use this moral recognition therapy to decrease the risk of further offending. Dia ni orang macam anti-social ni, dia tak ada perasaan, tak ada perasaan sesal dan sebagainya. So they use this moral recognition therapy. So another CBT, they call it stress inoculation training. This type of therapy uses a blend of cognitive, behavioral, and some humanistic training technique to target the stresses of the client. This usually is used to help clients better cope with their stress or anxiety after stressful events. So macam kita buat training stress management untuk pekerja ataupun untuk adolescent atau remaja yang ada tekanan. So they use inoculation training. Stress inoculation training is one type of CBT. So we want to train by using that you have all been done, deep breathing, visualization, imagination technique. So if they're having a stress, they're using this technique. So as a therapist, we do stress management, atau from this CBT, they call it stress inoculation training. So we go for the elements of CBT. So we want to know more on the elements of CBT. So there is in CBT, there is several defining elements. They are as follows. So one thing is that the client must be actively involved. They cannot become an observer or visitor, but as a core and key participant. So they must actively involve this therapeutic process. The second is motivational. The therapist need to take responsibility for helping to motivate the client toward the change in behavior, affect, or thinking. So the therapist must be able to set up the format and rationale for the client to consider change of value. So it's a big task actually for therapists. If they involve this CBT, they are the person. The therapist are the person yang motivate the client. Kita motivate client to change the behavior, affect is mean dia punya emotion, or dia punya thinking. So therapy must have a skill. Dia mesti ada format dia. And rational. You must have a format and also rational. Kalau you tak ada rational, you bincang dengan patient during the therapeutic process, the client will not consider lah. So therapy must be very skillful. And then another element, we call it directive. Directive means that the therapist must be able to develop a treatment plan, and then to help the client to understand and contribute to and see the treatment plan as a template for change. So therapist, you must have a plan. What you're going to do with the client, your plan. So you must prepare the plan. So the plan is to help the client to understand and contribute to and see the treatment plan as a template for change. So with this plan, they have to agree. The client have to agree, and they have to abide and to follow the plan that as the therapy is given to him. If there is no what they call it, cooperation with the patient, this thing will not happen. The CBT process will not happen. So this, in terms of elements, there is 3: active participation from the client, motivational. As a therapy, you must have a skill to motivate them. And then as a therapy, you also must have a plan, a directive plan for the client to understand, to contribute. And then they see the treatment plan will help them to change. So these are the elements of CBT. Yeah. And in CBT also, they call it structured. CBT is structured in 2 ways. First, the overall therapy follows structure that approximates the treatment plan. Session have identifiable beginning, middle, and end. So when you do with your patient, for example, like patient the anxiety disorders. So what is your plan? So your plan must be structured. The beginning, for example, you want to educate the client about the anxiety sign and symptom, for example. It's the beginning. And the middle, the beginning also, you want to realize, you want to explain to them the rationale. You do, for example, what is the rationale if you do this deep breathing technique? You must explain to them the rationale, the justification. If you practice this deep breathing, what will affect to them. So at the middle, they're going to train. And at the end, they have to apply it. They have to apply it to the situation, to the event that trigger their anxiety. So this is called structured. And then the next elements of CBT must be collaborative. Therapeutic collaboration cannot be 50-50. For severe depressed client, the possibility to generate 50% of the therapeutic effort is impossible. Initially, the collaboration may be 90-10. For each client, the therapist must evaluate the client's ability and motivation for the therapy. So if you want to get collaboration from the client, 100%, it's going to be impossible. Depends on the condition, on the client also. So you must evaluate, as a therapist, you must evaluate the client's ability and motivation for the therapy. If the client don't have any motivation for the therapy, it's going to be difficult. For example, like addicted, people yang addicted cigarette kan. So you want to change the punya behavior. Kalau client tu tak bagi collaboration, tak ada collaboration from the client, collaboration only 90% from you, 10% from them, is going to be difficult. And then the elements of CBT, they call it problem-oriented. So CBT focus on discrete problems rather than vague and amorphous. Goals of feeling good, getting better, or increased self-esteem. So in CBT, dia tak boleh call it was-was kan, dia kena very objective. Apa yang you nak daripada CBT you ni, apa target bersama dengan klien ni. Dia tak boleh benda yang vague, very vague and was-was. Katakan kita tak ada goal yang very objective goal. dia mesti ada benda yang kita target. Contoh dia addicted dengan smoking. Target kita nak reducekan dia punya smoking. Kita behavior kita reducekan dia punya for example people yang ambil isap rokok katakan disebabkan oleh stres katakan kan. So target kita nak reduce dia punya stres dan reduce dia punya habit tu mengambil yang mengisap rokok yang bad habit dia tu. So you mesti ada target. Dia mesti very objective. Kalau CBT, so you at the beginning you must discuss with your client your patient kan. What are the objective you want to do with this CBT? So actually elements of CBT also involve psychoeducation. Therapists work as an agent, as a change of agent. Many to problems that bring people therapy involve skill deficits. The therapy may have to teach by direct instruction, modeling, or role play. So role play, modeling. So dalam CBT also can be psychoeducation. At the beginning, probably kita educate dia. Kepentingan kita buat coping skill yang dikendaki itu and then solution focus. The CBT therapist works with the client on gathering solution, not simply gaining insight into the problem. So you have to work with the client. What are the solution? Itu yang penting. They call it solution focus. Macam mana nak selesaikan masalah? Solution. So you work together with your client to generate solutions, not simply gaining insight into the problem. Bukan kita nak tahu masalah dia saja. We want to solve dia punya masalah. So kita kalau bersama dengan pesakit ni, with the client, in term of CBT, we not only understand dia punya problem, but we want to have a solution. Dynamics. The dynamic level of CBT is to help clients to identify, understand, modify their schema. So the schema are the basic templates for understanding one's world. Schema may be personal, religious, cultural, gender related. So very not easy, not easy. We want to identify, understand, and modify their schema. Schema dia punya pandangan lah, dia punya perception, dia punya belief. Schema may be personal, religious, cultural, gender related. So not easy to change the schema of the person in terms of, for example, religious kan, in terms of religious. For example, like case dulu ada satu kes yang dia punya skema dari segi religious divert daripada yang sebenar. Contoh Arkam dulu kan. So Arkam kalau kita nak ubah dia punya skema religious dia bukannya mudah. So terapis tu ataupun ustaz yang nak ubah skema dia mesti ustaz yang mempunyai knowledge tentang religion kan. So it's not easy because it's involved personal, religious, cultural, and also gender related. So contoh untuk ubah skema seorang wanita, dia punya fikiran not easy. kan? Dia punya fikiran dia tersendiri, skema dia. So and then elements of CBT is time limited. So time in term of time limited, each therapy session should ideally stand alone. A time limited focus is not a number of sessions, but rather way of looking at therapy. So when you involved with them, not necessarily numbers of session, but rather way of looking at therapy. So terapi itu mesti kalau kita buat terapi 2-3 sesi tapi efektif, it's good lah. Kita bukan tengok sessions, tapi kita lebih kepada tengok apa hasil yang kita buat dalam terapi bersama pesakit ni, atau klien. Okey, ada siapa nak tanya soalan tentang elements of CBT ni? So techniques of CBT. So saya teruskan techniques of CBT. So in terms of techniques of CBT, the cognitive behavior therapy techniques are an interesting set of exercises that help modify a person's behavioral patterns. The behavioral patterns are modified in order to bring about positive change in their personality. Contoh kita nak change behavior seorang itu yang contoh dia addicted cigarette, when we identify dia punya problem, dia punya issue is that dia tertekan, bila tertekan dia ambil isap rokok. So after we identify dia punya situation, the event that tertekan tu, so kita ajar dia, kita bagi education dia punya negative effect of smoking, kan. Kemudian kita ajar dia teknik coping skill, macam mana nak cope kalau dia under stress. So at the end tu, bila dia dah tak misap rokok, dia cope, dia ada skill coping, actually kita bring about positive change in the personality, of the client. So the beginning, when talk about technique of CBT, in the beginning, in this technique, they call it cognitive rehearsal. In this technique, the patient is asked to recall a problematic situation of the past. So dalam CBT ni, you akan recall patient to identify or to recall. Dia akan recall apa problem dia, problem dia yang lepas. The therapist and client work together to find out a solution for the problem or a way in which the difficult situation, if it occurs in the future, can be sorted out. So you dengan client work together to find out the solution for the problem or a way in which difficult situation. So if it occurs in the future, can be sorted out. Contoh, itu yang saya cakap tadi, yang stres disebabkan tekanan kerja dan sebagainya, menyebabkan dia ambil dia channel dia punya coping skill dengan ngisap rokok dan sebagainya. So kita bagi coping skill supaya dia benda ni bila berlaku lagi, dia tak akan go to the behavior yang negatif tu. So the therapist asks the client to rehearse positive thoughts cognitively in order to make appropriate changes to latest thought process. So dalam cognitive rehearsal ni, so terapis akan akan buat rehearsal, positive thoughts cognitively in order to make appropriate changes to the latest thought process. Maksudnya, terapis akan rehearse positive thoughts. Maksudnya, dia akan cuba bila dia dah dapat satu cara penyelesaian, dia akan bila berlakunya sesuatu, dia make the client rehearse apa positive thought yang patut dibuat. So power of imagination proves to be of great use in such exercise. So you nak tanamkan positive thoughts ni dalam dia punya fikiran dia ni, macam mana nak buat bila berlaku situation atau problem yang dia hadapi, yang memberi tekanan pada dia, you akan buat rehearsal pada fikiran dia. So bagaimana bila dia keadaan biasa, dia akan dapat negative thoughts kan. Sekarang ni kita akan rehearse dia supaya ada positive thoughts. So power of imagination proves to be of great use in such exercise. So, sebab dalam realization therapy, kita pun ada kita buat imagination technique. Imagination techniques, they say is a power of imagination proves to be of great use in such exercise. So bagaimana kita nak imagine yang dia, yang kita perlu tanamkan pada fikiran klien kita ni, itu yang penting. Power of imagination. And then validity testing. So in these techniques, the therapist tests validity of belief thoughts of the client. So bila you dah buat cognitive rehearsal, you kena buat testing. So you kena test client tu. So you come up with a scenario or situation yang perlukan dia ada positive thinking untuk hadapi benda tu. So you in this they call it validity testing. You want to test whether the techniques that you've been taught to the client help him or not. The client is allowed to defend his viewpoint by means of objective evidence. So the client is allowed. Kita tak boleh one way saja. So the client also we need to get feedback from the client whether what we being educate or teach them in term of cognitive rehearsal tu bila dia dah practice ada tak berjaya ke tidak. So you need to have a feedback. We want to have a viewpoint from the client themselves. The faulty nature or invalidity of the beliefs of the client is exposed if she is unable to produce any kind of objective evidence. So, bila you dah buat cognitive rehearsal dan you dah test dia dan dia dah praktiskan, tapi dia he found that this is not tak membantu dia, tak bantu. So this from the client feedback, we should kita kena review balik lah apa yang kita train pada patient, pada client. So this is very important, validity testing. You need to test whatever you been trained to the patient. It must be validated. Validated from the client view lah. Client view. Kita kena dengar juga dia punya feedback. Feedback from the client is the evidence whether the what we have been taught to them is valid or not. And then very important, writing in journal. Writing in journal, even they have diary. Diary to practice. Whatever we have taught to them, it must be practiced. So it is the practice of maintaining a diary to keep an account of situations that arise in day-to-day life. Thoughts that are associated with this situation and the behavior exhibited in response to them are also mentioned in the diary. So they have to put in diary, katakan on Monday. So apa situation yang menyebabkan dia think negative, and then what are behavior exhibited, maksudnya behavior terbit lah, bila dia ada negative thinking, so apa behavior dia, apa behavior yang berkait dengan negative thinking, so they have to mention in the diary. The therapist and client together review the matter written in the journal and find out maladaptive thought pattern. So they have to, therapist and client have to understand, review lah, under review apa yang tertulis dalam diary, apa yang maladaptive thought pattern, apa pattern-pattern yang negatif, yang client to experience, dia kena review. The discussion that take place between them proves to be useful in finding different ways in which behavior of the client gets affected. So you need to understand the negative thought of the patient. If, for example, this patient ada masalah anxiety, kan? So anxiety, apa dia punya sign and symptom? Bila contoh dia ada symptom of short of breath, kan, tak boleh tidur, bila dia ada apa situation atau yang mengganggu dia, menyebabkan dia anxious tu, apa sign symptom dia, then apa behavior yang dia akan affected bila dia berada dalam keadaan situasi itu. So all these things must put in a journal. So therapist, when patient come, therapist must discuss with the patient regarding what have been put in their journal. And then guided discovery. The objective or purpose behind using the technique is that of helping clients by enabling them to understand their cognitive distortion. That's why I said, if you people yang ada anxiety disorder, bila dia anxious, apa yang sign symptom dia tu? Tak boleh concentrate dan sebagainya. Clients are made aware of and assisted by therapists in understanding how they process information. So therapist must be assist client tu. Dia tetapi kena understand how kena bantu pada client, apa berlaku pada diri dia bila berlakunya dia punya cognitive distortion tu, apa efek dia punya emotion, dan also dia punya behavior. So therapist kena bantu client. The activity of understanding how information is processed allow client to alter the same information process if required. So bila patient dah sedar, dia faham keadaan diri dia, bila dia contoh dia ada negatif, dia ada anxious, dia ada negative thought, dia ada symptom ni, So bila berlakunya benda ni, dia boleh change lah dia punya proses tu bila kita dah ajar coping skill untuk dia. This they call it guided discovery. Basically, the client's perception of the world undergoes great change, and she sees things in different way than earlier. So, bila kita dah tahu dia punya problem dari segi emosi, dia punya thinking, dia punya behavior, senang untuk kita buat perubahan, pada sakit tersebut. The change in perception allows the client to modify her behavior in a better manner. So, bila kita discuss dengan patient, okay, kalau jadi benda ni, so what you going to action they have to do, kan? Bila dia faham keadaan tu menyebabkan dia behavior dia affected or that, bila dia faham, senang untuk kita bila dia faham, dia dah understand, and then dia accepted the situation dia dapat tu, so senang untuk kita modify her behavior in a better manner. So it is one of the modeling. It is one of the cognitive therapy techniques in which therapy perform role-playing exercise aimed at responding in a way that is helpful to overcome difficult situation. They call it modeling. So therapist kena play role-playing exercise. Maksudnya kita kena ada role-play lah. Role-play maksudnya kita adakan scenario or situation yang mana dia contoh saya bagi contoh anxiety disorder, kita contoh dia anxious pada superior dia, boss dia, so kita adakan role play exercise. Role play maksud probably therapist become dia punya boss, so patient praktiskan apa teknik yang kita dah train pada dia untuk overcome the difficult situation yang dia hadapi. Tapi kita kena tahulah apa sebab dia berlakunya stres, apa dia situation yang menyebabkan dia stres, apa dia bos dia, apa yang menyebabkan dia dapat stres tu dan sebagainya. So the patient makes use of this behavior of the therapist as a model in order to solve problems she comes across. Kadang-kadang itu sebagai terapis kita tunjukkan dia lah. Tunjukkan dia bila bos datang apa yang patut dia buat. So we as a model, kalau dia hadapi masalah, so kita tunjukkan cara macam mana untuk handle the situation, the problem that she come across. So we as a model. And then homework. In this CBT, there is a homework. Homework is actually a set of assignments given by therapists to patients. The patient may have to take notes during session with therapists, review audio tapes of a particular session, or read article books related to the therapy. So bila kita ajar contoh macam deep breathing technique kan, pada patient to encounter dia punya stressful situation ataupun anxiety. Kalau dia ada masalah anxiety, so dia kena buat homework. Maksud ada assignment. Assignment maksudnya bila berlaku situation ataupun bila dia experience anxiety dan sebagainya, so dia kena praktiskan. Maksud di rumah pun dia kena practice. Dan kalau berlaku situation atau problem yang dia come across, they also have to do that, do the whatever the therapists have trained them. There is a they call it this one aversive conditioning. Amongst the different CBT technique used by therapists, aversive conditioning technique make use of discussion so as to lessen the appeal of maladaptive behavior. They call it aversive conditioning technique by discussion. Kadang-kadang kita kena discuss dengan patient bila dia buat behavior yang negatif atau maladaptive behavior, macam mana nak kurangkan dia punya negative behavior. The patient, while being engaged in a particular behavior or thought for which he has to be treated, is exposed to an unpleasant stimulus. The patient, while being engaged in particular behavior or thought which he has to be treated, is exposed to an unpleasant stimulus. Yes, because kadang kita nak conditioning the patient kan. Kadang keadaan benda yang dia tak selesa lah. Because that situation that they come across to, that is the thing that really affect dia punya behavior or thoughts kan. So they are not, they feel unpleasant. Sebab kita akan buat role play ataupun kita nak trigger supaya dia dapat cope dengan situasi yang memang tidak selesa pada dia. Thus, the unpleasant stimulus get associated with these thoughts behavior, and then the patient exhibit an aversive behavior towards that. So, because of the unpleasant stimulus, ini akan menyebabkan dia rasa dia punya thoughts and behavior akan timbul bila kita adakan situation yang dia tak suka, yang menyebabkan dia trigger dia punya negative thinking on that. So they call it aversive conditioning. So aversive conditioning will be done with the patient. Kita akan create situation yang mana dia akan, situation ini yang akan menyebabkan dia akan ada negative thoughts dan behavior yang tak sesuai. So dalam CBT kita akan buat rehearsal tentang this aversive conditioning, sebab kita nak dia condition balik, conditioning dia boleh cope tak dengan keadaan yang dia memang tak selesa kan, yang menyebabkan trigger dia ada negative behavior. And then dalam CBT also there is a systematic positive reinforcement. So the systematic positive reinforcement is one of the techniques of CBT therapy in which certain positive behavior of a person are rewarded with positive reinforcement. So kita akan bagi positive reinforcement, reward pada dia bila dia achieve behavior yang kita kendaki, yang positif lah. Kita akan bagi, they call it systematic. Systematic maksudnya dia kena achieve. Kalau behavior yang positif dia achieve, kita akan bagi dia reward kan. They call it positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement bukan hadiah saja. Senyuman, kita bagi senyuman, kita bagi tepukan syabas dan sebagainya kan. Kita tepuk bahu dia pun bagus, kita bagi signal bagus pun dia kira positive reinforcement. A reinforcement system is established of certain positive behavior. So kita kena recognize apa positive behavior yang dia dah lakukan, barulah kita bagi reinforcement. Just like positive reinforcement proves to be helpful in encouraging a particular behavior, withholding the reinforcement deliberately also is instrumental in eradicating a maladaptive behavior. So indirectly, kalau kita bagi positive reinforcement pada behavior yang kita kendaki, indirectly is withholding. Dia sebagai instrumental juga untuk buangkan yang maladaptive behavior. And then another one, self-instructional method. Self-instructional method. In self-instructional coping methods, the therapy attempts not to completely change the way you think, but rather teach coping methods that equip you to handle harmful thought process. One such therapeutic process is stress inoculation training. Maksudnya, dari segi self-instructional ni, bukan kita bagi dalam kita punya perbincangan tu, dia terus dapat dia punya positive thinking dia, tapi kita kena ada method macam mana nak handle harmful thought process tu. Dalam stress inoculation training, dia ada kita akan ajar teknik contoh macam deep breathing, apa lagi, Jacobson relaxation training, all that kan, imagination technique, visualization technique. So this is the method yang kita train pada mereka yang ada nak manage stress. And then actually they themselves kena buat coping methods, kena jalankan sendiri. Setakat kalau terapis ajar first session je educate dia tak boleh, dia kena buat sendiri. This therapy will help the patient deal with stressful event aftermath, aims to prevent negative reaction to stress-inducing factors by teaching the patient to break down this situation into short-term and long-term coping goals. So, for example, like stress, manage stress ni, manage stress, dia bukan masa dia bila dia buat. Dia punya, bila kita train dia, kita tak boleh train untuk jangka pendek. Kita kena ada short term and long term goals. Short term goals, yes, we train them in terms of understanding that we train them to have a skill in terms of do this breathing technique. But long term, how they going to apply this deep breathing technique in the real situation. Contoh di office, di tempat kerja, tempat yang mana akan memberi tekanan, stressful situation pada dia. Bila dia bertemu lah, come across the situation that trigger dia punya stress tu, so dia kena, this is a long term goal kita lah. Kita nak train dia bila dia kembali ke tempat kerja. Bukan setakat short term saja, long term goals. Cognitive behavior therapy, which sees irrational thought process as resolvable, incorporate problem-solving methods. After illogical thought patterns are found, the patient must suggest several alternative solution. So dalam kita punya CBT ni, kita bagi dia problem solving. Macam mana nak resolve, kita ada problem solving method yang kita ajar kat dia. through the decision making process, negative solutions are weeded out until an acceptable positive approach is discovered. This type of therapy sometimes is used in child psychotherapy when dealing with oppositional defiant disorder. Untuk kanak-kanak biasanya kita buat this method. Through the decision making process, negative solutions are weeded out until an acceptable positive approach is discovered. So this is called this therapy used in child psychotherapy when dealing with oppositional defiant disorders. So pada kanak-kanak, biasa kita akan buat approach macam ini, di mana kita weeded out until an acceptable positive approach is discovered. So kadang-kadang dengan kanak-kanak ni kita kena explore what type of positive approach yang kita boleh buat. Kita kadang-kadang kanak-kanak ni kita trial and error, apa approach yang sesuai, untuk kanak-kanak ni. Kadang kita bukan boleh dapat jump to solution dia. Kita kena banyak trial pada kanak-kanak ni. Bukan senang kanak-kanak. Ada guna computer assisted therapy. One method of conducting cognitive behavioral therapy is through computer-based program. This therapy tends to decrease the time spent with an actual therapist. Sekarang banyak guna komputer, computer assisted therapy, dah tak guna terapis. Tapi ada juga, kadang kalau you tengok ada program kat komputer tu, dia ada apps yang tertentu, dia ada checklist, guided program yang dapat membantu untuk cognitive training dan behavior, emotion, all that. Ada dalam computer based program. Since computer assisted CBT is relatively new as of publication, most of the information is in the testing phase. So banyak yang guna computer assisted CBT ni dalam testing phase. Probably kalau in future, kalau nampak research, gunakan komputer as a way to conduct CBT is good, sebab dia dalam testing phase. So dalam CBT ni, I ada satu dalam YouTube, Barbara Heffernan. She's a psychologist. Banyak dia YouTube yang dia buat tentang how to macam mana nak train CBT exercise, how to feel better. You train you punya cognitive, you punya emotion, macam mana nak exercise, this guna CBT. And then stop self-sabotage now. CBT unhelpful thinking style. Kalau you ada style yang tidak membantu you, kan? You ada negative thinking or that, macam mana you nak cope ni? How to stop catastrophizing in 5 simple steps by Barbara. So kadang kita panik, kan? Panik. Macam mana nak handle panik ni? So dia train dalam CBT Barbara ni, macam dia akan train seseorang tu macam mana to stop catastrophizing thinking ni. Bila kadang orang panik macam mana nak handle situation of panic. You boleh tengok dalam YouTube by Barbara, happened. It's very good. So evidence, banyak evidence yang saya dapat. Ini from Cochrane collaboration. Cochrane Library ni, biasanya kalau Cochrane Library ni dia lebih kepada review. Kalau you nak tengok systematic review, you pergi kepada Cochrane. Cochrane database ni banyak. Saya akan share ke you all. Okay, this one very nice. Evidence. Okay, nampak tak slide ni? Tak apa lah. PDF ni nampak tak?
Nampak, sir.
Okay, this one psychological therapist. Psychotherapist is like CBT lah. CBT. They have a study regarding psychological therapists for the treatment of post-traumatic stress disorder in children and adolescents. This is a systematic review. When talk about systematic review ni, this person yang review ni dia ada grant. Dia ada grant. So projek dia ni besar lah. Bila projek dia besar, bila ada finance support kan, so dia boleh concentrate, dia review tentang psychological therapies for the treatment of post-traumatic stress disorder in children and adolescents. Tunjukkan you dia punya, you all boleh baca nanti. Ini from Western Sydney, Western Sydney, Australia. Ini semua Donna Gillies, Fiona Taylor, Carl Gray, semua daripada ni Western Sydney. Dua ni daripada Parramatta, Sydney juga. Department Psychiatry Australia. Newcastle, ni semua orang yang review ni daripada universiti. Dia ada dapat grant untuk review psychological therapies for treatment of post-traumatic stress disorder in children and adolescents. Okay, this abstract post-traumatic stress disorder is highly prevalent in children and adolescents who have experienced trauma and has high personal health costs. Although a wide range of psychological therapy have been used in the treatment of PTSD, there are no systematic reviews of these therapies in children and adolescents. So because of this, tak banyak review tentang psychological therapies. So dia buat, mereka ni buat. So they want to examine the effectiveness of psychological therapies in treating children and adolescents who have been diagnosed with PTSD. So dia search lah. So dia ni, tugas dia ni dia akan review artikel-artikel. So artikel from database, database Medline, Cochrane, semua dia review, and dia dalam dia punya review ni dia very high in term of dia punya criteria. Criteria must be all randomized control trial of psychological therapies compared to a control, compared to pharmacological, compared to other treatments in children or adolescents exposed to traumatic event in that. So dia orang cari artikel-artikel tu, dia review sebagainya. So dah dia dapat 14. So dia dapat 14 studies including dia dapat 14 studies including 758 participants. Maksudnya subjek tu 758 subjek. So banyak kes ni, trauma ni disebabkan oleh sexual abuse, civil violence, natural disaster, domestic violence. Domestic violence ni macam keganasan rumah tangga lah, kena dera, motor vehicle accident. So pesakit ni dia datang daripada penyebab ni. Okay, dalam sini they said the psychological therapy used in these studies were cognitive behavior therapy. See, behavior therapy, expose-based, psychodynamic, narrative, supported counseling, and eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Most compared a psychological therapy to a control group. So banyak kepada control group. This group, CBT, exposure based, semua ni compare dengan control. No study compare psychological therapy to, tak ada study yang compare dengan ubat, pharmacological therapy alone or as an adjunct to psychological therapy. So kalau kita nak baca dia punya figures ni, lambat sikit lah. You all pun belum belajar statistik lagi. Kita skip ni, kita tengok dia punya conclusion. Kalau kita tak pandai baca ni, statistik ni, kita pergi kepada conclusion je lah. Okay. Kalau saya cerita pun you tak faham sebab you belum belajar biostatistik kan. So kita pergi conclusion. So there is evidence for the effectiveness of psychological therapies, particularly CBT. There is evidence effectiveness of psychological therapies, particularly CBT, for treating PTSD in children and adolescents for up to a month following treatment. At this stage, there is no clear evidence for effectiveness of one psychological therapy compared to others. There is also not enough evidence to conclude that children and adolescents with particular types of trauma are more or less likely to respond to psychological therapy than others. So dalam ini dia cakap lah more evidence perlu dibuat dan sebagainya, tapi in term of evidence, memang there is evidence for the effectiveness of psychological therapy, particularly CBT. Maksudnya kalau kita buat CBT dengan PTSD children and adolescent up to a month following treatment. Maksudnya dia buat rawatan selama 1 bulan, memang ada keberkesanan, efektif. So kalau you ada masa, you baca this review. Sebenarnya kalau katakan kita sebagai terapis, katakan you nak buat program CBT pada kanak-kanak ni, you nak play around dia punya psikologi or that, dalam program you, dalam treatment you, this is the evidence. The evidence highlight that CBT is effective to do with the PTSD children and also adolescents. So if you got time, you read this review. Banyak di sini, 113 muka surat. Kalau you nak buat research, katakan you nak research, you nak in term of literature review, dah ada. You nak cari tentang study yang fulfill the criteria tu, ada di sini sebanyak 14 studies, 14 study, tapi dia up to berapa ni? Tahun berapa ni? Up to, dia tak adalah sampai tahun 2020, tapi dia sampai 2012. Maksudnya study dah dibuat sampai 2012, ada 14 studies yang melibatkan randomized control trial, level 1 evidence. Randomized control trial, systematic review memanglah level 1. Kalau randomized control trial yang compare to control group, this gold strength evidence. Okey, kita pergi kepada evidence. This one Cochrane juga. This one lebih kepada psychological therapies for generalized anxiety disorder. This is a review, systematic review done by Hanat Churchill, Silva 5 ni dia from where ni? Sekejap. Dia pada Brazil, bukan? Dia pada apa ni UK, United Kingdom. United Kingdom, So this talking about GAD, GAD psychological therapies. Okay, generalized anxiety disorder is a highly prevalent condition characterized, tak nampak nanti, kecil sikit. Generalized anxiety disorder is a highly prevalent condition characterized by excessive worry or anxiety about everyday events and problems. The effectiveness and comparative effectiveness of psychological therapies as a group has not yet been evaluated in the treatment of GAD. To examine the efficacy and acceptability of psychological therapies categorized as CBT. When talk about psychological therapy ni, dia ada CBT, psychodynamic therapy and supportive therapy. Compare with treatment, usual waiting list, and compare with one another for patient with GAD. So samalah macam yang tadi, dia cari dia sampai 2006 saja. 2006. Taken sampai 2006. So dia punya kriteria randomized and quasi. Ini ada quasi pula. Quasi randomized control trials conducted in non-inpatient setting involve adults aged 18 to 75 years with a primary diagnosis of GAD, assigned to a psychological therapy condition compared with dan sebagainya. So randomized and quasi. Quasi ni talking about you have usual treatment. You ada treatment yang conventional, yang usual, you add on. Contoh you guna CBT katakan. So dipanggil quasi randomized control trials. Contoh randomized control trial yang dia buat dengan control group, dia comparekan dengan control group. Control group ni tak ada apa-apa. Tapi kadang-kadang unethical, kan? Unethical kalau you buat randomized control trial, sebab you tak bagi apa-apa ke apa patient. Sedangkan you tahu benda tu bagus. So kadang kita buat quasi randomized control trial, we add on conventional method dengan experimental intervention, CBT lah contohnya, pada patient tu, ya. Okay. So kalau you tengok sini 25 studies, 1,305 participant. So yang dapat contribute only 22 studies, yang boleh compare dia punya data. So author's conclusion, psychological therapy based on CBT principles is effective in reducing anxiety symptoms for short-term GAD. The body of evidence comparing CBT with other psychological therapy is small and heterogeneous, which precludes drawing conclusion about which psychological therapy is more effective. Further study examining non-CBT model are required to inform healthcare policy on the most appropriate forms of psychological therapy in treating GAD. So the author conclude that psychological therapy based on CBT principle is effective in reducing anxiety symptoms for short-term treatment of GAD. So kalau kita ada generalized anxiety disorder, kita boleh guna CBT untuk sakit kita, ya. Okay, I got another article yang you all boleh tengok. This one Ini cognitive behavior terapi. Ini untuk kes apa ni? Skizo. How about skizo pula? This is a review. Cognitive behavior therapy versus other psychological treatment of schizophrenia. Maksudnya CBT ni lawan kita compare kan CBT dengan other psychological treatment for case of schizophrenia. Schizophrenia you all tahu dia ada negative symptom, ada positive symptom, dia ada hallucination, delusion in terms of the positive symptom. Is it effective or not using CBT ni? So already dibuat daripada UK, Nottingham University, daripada UK up to sampai tahun 2012, sampai 2012. So abstract, kita baca abstract. Kalau kita kadang kita tak sempat baca artikelnya 167. Wow, pages je macam buku pula 167. Kalau tak sempat kita baca abstract lah. Cognitive behavior therapy is now a recommended treatment for people with schizophrenia. This approach helps to link the person distress. So dalam dia punya background ni, kalau buat CBT ni untuk patient schizophrenia yang ada distress and problem behaviors to underlying patterns of thinking. So yang ada issue of distress and problem behaviors. So objektif dia review lah. Review CBT compared with other psychological therapists. So dia cari sampai 2010 database daripada Sinar, Embase, Medline. Dia baca, dia review all the articles, relevant trials of that. Kadang-kadang dia contact authors. So all relevant randomized control trial of CBT for people with like illness. So RCTs yang melibatkan yang buat CBT pada pesakit skizofrenia ini. So main result dia kita 31 papers. Dia ada 31 papers yang fulfill the criteria. So, author's conclusion, trial-based evidence suggests no clear and convincing advantage for CBT over other, and sometimes much less sophisticated therapy for people with schizophrenia. Maksudnya evidence kurang, tak clear. Kalau kita buat CBT ni dengan schizophrenia. Tak convince macam PTSD dengan GAD kan, General Anxiety Disorder, lebih terampil, lebih clear. Maksudnya kalau you ada case schizophrenia, mengikut evidence ni tak clear, tak convincing macam yang lain tu, ya. So ada 3 artikel ni, nanti kalau you ada masa, you boleh bacalah artikel ni. Okay. So these 3 evidence I can upload dalam you punya folder regarding CBT, cognitive behavior therapy pada patient. Okay. Itu saja. So you all ada soalan nak tanya tentang CBT ni?
Doktor.
Ya, Nurul.
Doktor pernah bagi CBT ni dekat patient mana?
Yang biasa saya buat yang ada masalah anxiety lah. Anxiety. Saya tak pernah buat dengan skizo. Tapi yang ada anxiety disorders ni saya pernah buat. That's why anxiety yang kita biasa saya buat CBT ni pada yang ada insight lah, yang boleh follow kita punya instruction, and then dia boleh visualize, kan? Yang case anxiety yang saya buat lah. Case kanak-kanak saya tak pernah buat. Tapi evidence shows that CBT also appropriate for PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, for children and adolescents. And also, when you graduate, you can venture to children who having yang ada masalah apa ni, psychopaths, antisocial. Probably you boleh buat CBT untuk dia orang ni. Sebab dia ada distorted dia punya thinking kan, dan link dengan dia punya inappropriate behavior tu, maladaptive behavior. And sebab, and then kalau you besok dah qualified, you can further study, dia dapat certification CBT, CBT training. So dia ada khusus khas yang apa, CBT training, dia ada certification untuk CBT training. Okay, good. Siapa lagi yang nak tanya?
Doktor nak tanya lagi.
Ya, Tira.
Cognitive behavioral therapy ni sama ke dengan cognitive therapy?
Yes. Actually, yang appropriate word dia ada macam contoh psikoterapi, kan? Psikoterapi, cognitive therapy. Tapi yang sebenarnya yang betulnya CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. Tapi okey, satu lagi yang kita biasa buat, OT buat, dipanggil cognitive training kan. Kita train dia punya kognitif dia. Contoh dia ada masalah concentration, we want to improve concentration. So we focus training, kita guna contoh, kita main contoh macam Saidina katakan, Saidina kan. Kita nak improve dia punya concentration katakan. Atau main dam ke, main game ke, tujuan kita untuk improve dia punya concentration. Tapi untuk CBT ni, kita not only want to improve dia punya cognitive, but also dia punya emotion dan juga dia punya behavior. Sebab this thing link together. Kalau orang tu ada negative thinking, negative thought kan, behavior dia akan, kita nampak pattern of dia punya emotion and also behavior. Kalau seorang tu katakan kawan you ada negative thinking, negative thoughts, dia seorang yang tidak mudah mesra, susah nak bercakap dengan you, dia suka asingkan diri, so behavior dia, kita nampaklah pattern of the punya behavior sebab dia ada negative thought pada fikiran dia. Dari segi emosi, dia tak friendly, dia tak ada friendliness kan, susah nak friends, susah nak establish relationship. So CBT different from cognitive training. Okay, good, Atira. Yang lain ada nak tanya? From Adib. Yang poor insight memang tak sesuai lah. Ini Adib, bagi saya lah. Kalau you tengok evidence to schizophrenia, dia target dia untuk distress dan behavior kan. Tapi dia schizophrenia ni ada negative symptoms kan. Positive symptom macam delusion, hallucination. Dia ada poor insight pada diri dia, keadaan dia. Lebih kepada psychotic kan. Very difficult. to do CBT. How you going to, contoh kalau you buat kalau contoh skizofrenia ni, dia ada masalah stres katakan. You nak you nak teaching coping skill kat dia, how to manage stress. So you nak buat homework pada dia kan, ada task dia. So dia tak boleh follow you because element of CBT dia ada three things tu kan, collaboration, active participation dan juga direction. Kalau dia tak dapat follow you punya directive, it's going to be a tough thing lah, difficult thing to achieve apa goal you lah. Okay, good. Ada lagi yang nak tanya?
Sir.
Ya, Nabila.
Saya ada soalan. Masa praktikal dulu, saya pernah dengar ada clinical psychologist buat CBT. CBT yang diorang guna tu sama ke dengan teknik yang OT guna?
CBT actually sama je. But sometimes they are very skillful. Dia sebenarnya CBT ni, dia ada advanced training. Dia ada advanced training. Macam apa, biasa I ikut. Dulu I masa buat practical dekat I follow psychiatrist. Dia buat CBT juga. Psychotherapy. They using CBT. So, it's good macam mana dia conduct dengan patient. Sebenarnya dia nak mainkan dia punya psikologi, psikologi patient tu. Dia nak mainkan dia nak alter psychology of the patient from negative thinking to positive thinking, and then indirectly improve dia punya behavior. So macam kita juga kadang, kalau macam mana you nak improve patient you, contoh you ada patient yang ada low motivation, tiba-tiba you dapat patient yang low motivation, tak ada harapan masa depan. So you kadang-kadang you kena buat individually dengan dia kan. You can practice CBT ni. CBT. Itu saya cakap, kalau you nak tahu lebih lanjut, you tengok video YouTube tu, by Barbara tu. Barbara macam mana Barbara train guna CBT pada not only patient tau. CBT ni can be done with the normal person. Kerana normal person yang ada masalah selalu fikir negatif kan, tak bersemangat. Even kalau contoh ahli sukan kan, ahli sukan, macam mana you nak masukkan, tanamkan fikiran dia untuk think positif. Bila think positif, you punya emosi will be different kan. Kalau you think negatif, kata nak bertanding, katakan nak berlawan, you dah tengok orang tu, you dah think dah fikiran you dah tengok orang besar, badan besar, kata contoh dia bertinju lah katakan badan nak berlawan, kata orang tu bertinju, kata dia tengok badan dia dah think negatif dah. So bila negatif dia, emosi dia akan berubah lah kan. Dia takut, dia seorang dah takut kan. Bila takut, behavior dia akan terkesan lah. Dia susah nak bertindak kan, pergerakan dia limited, terbatas, sebab dia ada negative thinking. So you kalau sebagai terapi, kadang kalau you dapat case macam itu, macam mana you nak improve dia punya positive thinking tu. So you ada sesi dengan dia, individual session. Biasanya CBT ni efektif ni dia individu. Ada kalau psikoterapi, ada psikoterapi dia biar CBT ni individu. Ada satu dia panggil group terapi kan, group terapi, group psikoterapi. Maksudnya group yang akan bagi input pada pada apa kawan dia yang lain lah dalam peer group tu, dalam kumpulan. Okay, good. Ada lagi yang nak tanya?
Doktor,
Ya.
kalau yang poor insight tu, kalau CBT tak sesuai, doktor biasa guna apa?
Poor
Untuk
insight.
yang poor insight.
Kalau poor insight tu dia panggil supportive therapy. Supportive therapy ada evidence kat sini, nanti saya tunjuk. Dia call it supportive therapy. Supportive therapy ni memang ada evidence. Contoh macam skizofrenia. Dia ada evidence. Nanti saya pun uploadkan nanti satu evidence. Dia panggil supportive therapy. Nanti you bacalah artikel tu. Artikel tu ada evidence. Contoh tunjuk apa ni? Tunjukkan kalau kes skizofrenia ada evidence mengatakan supportive therapy is the best for them. Doktor ni siapa? Kalau dulu time saya practical terapi cakap kita tak boleh practice CBT sebab ada need license. Kita cuma boleh advise for CBT psychology je. It depends on hospital. Actually kalau you nak practice I mean your job only do CBT. Katakan you buka klinik di private you nak buka, you punya job only you conduct CBT. That one you need a license. Tapi kalau you buat patient once a while, ada 3 sesi you involve, contoh you buat relaxation therapy. Sebab relaxation therapy ni kalau you ajar contoh deep breathing kat dia tanpa you involve dengan CBT ni, tak guna juga kan. You ajar, apa dia punya application, apa you punya proses tu untuk dia kan. Jadi CBT ni actually, CBT ni incorporate dengan you punya ajar coping skill pada patient. That's why kalau you not stand alone using CBT untuk klinik you di luar, saya rasa tak perlu ambil license kan. You incorporate CBT dengan coping skill yang you ajar pada patient kan. Tak ada pun katakan announcement ke ataupun siapa tak boleh praktis, siapa pun tak boleh guna CBT. Why cannot? Sebab kalau you dah train, you dah dah cuba, you have success with your client using CBT, incorporate with coping skill, for example like relaxation technique with your patient, there's no issue. Kenapa dia nak tinggalkan? Except kalau you buka klinik, you khas you buat CBT saja. Then macam psikologis dia ada klinik so CBT ni dia kadang psikologis ni dia bukan dengan patient, dia buat dengan orang normal. Orang normal contoh atlet ke, macam Zaitun Othman. Zaitun Othman ni psikologis. Psikologis kan, Zaitun Othman ni. Dia mainkan untuk orang normal, tapi kita dengan pesakit. Kita boleh incorporate CBT dengan coping skill yang lain. Why not kan kita buat. Tak ada isu, tak ada pun psikologis su OT pula kan. Except kalau you buka klinik di luar, memang you buat CBT saja pada orang normal atau pesakit, then you have to get a license. Have a license. Apa ni? Siapa ni? Zuan ni. Okey Zuan ni? Faham Sebab kita SOT, we incorporatekan CBT dengan kita punya apa yang kita nak. Contoh kita nak ajar relaxation technique pada patient kita. So the process is similar like CBT tu. Tapi mekanisme dia untuk behavior dia, kita nak create behavior yang sesuai. Contoh dulu dia smoking katakan. Behavior dia kalau dia stress dia smoking kan. Dia anxious dia smoking. Tapi kita nak improve dia punya behavior, kita kena ada juga involve dia punya cognitive kan. Thinking dia tu, dia punya thought process tu. Okay, thank you Nurul. Good sharing to you all. I know some of the therapists kalau dia teach relaxation skill tanpa guna CBT, apa gunanya? Dia tak incorporate dengan CBT kan? Apa gunanya? Train sekali dah, lantak lah nak pakai ke tidak. Tapi the proses sama juga macam CBT yang kita buat kita gunakan tu kan. Ya. Okey, ada lagi yang nak tanya?
Sir,
Yes. Jana.
Sir pernah apply CBT dengan patient OCD tak? Obsessive compulsive.
Belum lagi. Belum.
Tapi sesuai sir.
OCD I think it's a stable also kan. Kalau OCD itu ada insight, good insight, dia faham situasi. Cuma kita nak buat structured CBT kan pada dia. Orang yang macam ini lebih kena structured lah. Macam mana kita nak ubahkan behavior dia. Contoh OCD dia membasuh tangan kan. Mencuci tangan. Kita punya intervention pada dia CBT dia lebih structured. Maksudnya selepas cuci tangan timing tengok 5 minit. You boleh cuci tangan 5 minit. Selepas 5 minit you kena lap tuala katakan. Lepas tu you kena pergi satu tempat, you kena tandakan maksudnya you dah buat benda tu. So kita structured pada dia. Pada OCD ni, obsessive compulsive disorder. Contoh yang obses dengan mencuci tangan tu. Tapi kita lebih kepada structured activity lah. Kalau tidak, kalau you tak buat CBT yang structured pada dia, so behavior dia mencuci tangan dia akan cuci selama 2 jam. You akan, kalau you dapat kes yang OCD ni, nampak pelik kan? Nampak pelik. Contoh dia OCD dia selalu dia ingat dia dah tutup lampu. So you buat structured lah, masuk checklist contoh checklist, lampu dah padam, tanda. Yang ini pintu dah kunci, tanda. Bawa list tu, you nak improve dia punya behavior ni kan. Behavior, dia punya thinking dengan dia punya emotion. Kalau dia tak buat tu, maksud dia anxious. Tapi bila dia lakukan, dia dah structuredkan, dia dah ada checklist untuk dia. Bila dia keluar, oh, I dah buat semua ni. Jadi, ini akan dapat reduce dia punya anxiety. Dia punya negative thinking tu, anxious kan. Anxiety. Okay. Okay, lagi siapa nak tanya soalan? Very good discussion.
Saya nak tanya.
Okay, Azika. Azika.
Apa perbezaan dari segi cara terapis untuk apply CBT ni dekat kanak-kanak dengan orang dewasa?
So, kanak-kanak ni kita punya approach lebih kepada explorative, explore. Maksudnya kita macam mana nak handle situation, macam mana coping skill dia tu. Sebab kanak-kanak ni kita tak tahu dia punya strength, dia pun tak faham. Kita tak tahu dia punya setakat mana dia boleh handle the situation tu, coping skill mana yang sesuai untuk dia. Kadang kanak-kanak ni kita kena explore untuk tahu dia punya coping skill yang sesuai nak kita train dalam CBT untuk dia ni. Contoh macam saya dah tunjuk play therapy tu kan. Play therapy during, because apa ni, dia using play therapy for hurricane, hurricane disaster tu, hurricane puting beliung dekat mana tu, Minnesota tu kan. Actually dia apply CBT, so CBT dia lebih kepada play, play skill, coping skill with play. So kadang-kadang dia explore kan, kanak-kanak tu sebut dia buat sesi ni, tapi sesi ni, tapi akhirnya bila dah explore, dia dah dapat build up dia punya self esteem, confident, so dia dapat reducekan dia punya negative thinking. So this like incorporate juga, incorporate CBT dengan play therapy kan. Kita, sebab apa dia takut dengan kilat, dengan hujan? Sebab dia ada trauma, dia ada negative thinking. Bila ada trauma, ada kilat, hujan lebat, benda tu yang menyebabkan peristiwa dia trauma. So effect dia punya behavior, tak boleh tidur sendiri, menangis kan, negative thinking buatkan dia menangis, tak dependent, tak pergi bilik air pun takut kan. So that's why macam CBT with children, they using play therapy as a coping mechanism kan, they explore with the children. Compared to adolescent, different kan. Different adolescent ni lebih kita straightforward, lebih structured. Contoh macam anxiety kan. So kita educate dia. What is the thing that trigger you punya anxiety? Kita bersama dengan dia cari apa trigger, kita discuss dengan dia kan. Kalau contoh macam dia anxious, probably dia punya anxiety disebabkan dia nak jumpa kawan dia, dia nak jumpa bos dia contoh, ataupun lecturer dia. Kadang-kadang nak jumpa lecturer pun you dah anxious kan. So kita explore apa dia punya causal dia tu, apa yang trigger dia tu menyebabkan dia anxious. Bila anxious, apa simptom dia? Dia gementar, tak boleh bercakap, cakap pun putus-putus kan, ataupun dia nak pergi buang air, nak kencing. So dia, we adapt ni kita lebih senang sebab apa? Dia tahu dia punya sign simptom dia. Bila tahu sign dan simptom dia, lepas tu kita ajar, kita train dia lah coping skill untuk contoh deep relaxation, deep breathing semua. Bila kita train dia, dia dapat reduce dia punya anxiety, dapat reduce dia punya sign symptom. Dari situ kita tahu dia. Lepas tu kita buat role play kan. Kita buat role play. You sebagai contoh apa lecturer yang situ, yang you bila tengok muka dia gementar, takut kan, tak boleh bercakap, nak pergi kencing dia kan, pergi bilik air. Pernah juga saya jumpa kadang student ni baru masuk dia dah pergi bilik air dah. Mungkin dia menyampah tengok saya katnya. Contoh macam itu kan. So you buat role play, you buat contoh dengan apa, you sebagai terapi, you berlakon sebagai orang yang trigger dia tu. Dan after that you practice, you buat homework. Ada homework kat dia lah. Masuk ketika situation tu, you kena apply. So you kena rate kan. So dengan adapt ni lebih senang sebab dia faham dan dia boleh share dia punya the thing that trigger dia atau cross dia punya anxiety atau situation yang menyebabkan dia ada negative thinking or that. Okey. Dapat tak jawapan saya tu?
Dapat, thank you.
Okey, Tia Zika. Yang lain? Okey, kalau tak ada apa-apa, saya sampai di sini sajalah. Ya. SBL seperti biasa. Kecuali hari Rabu, nanti saya beritahulah. Saya ada hal sikit hari Rabu. Tapi kita akan buat minggu ni lah, SBL. Dan kita, sebenarnya kita lab report kita dah ada. Lab report dan juga presentation kita dah ada markah. Dan kita ada SBL ni. SBL kira assignment lah. Assignment, every one of you got assignment kan. Then present assignment tu. Dan after that kita ada 2 test. Test 1 and test 2. Nanti saya maklumkan lah test 1 tu bila dan test 2 tu bila. Ya. Okay guys. Okay semua. Kalau tak ada apa-apa saya akhirkan di sini. Ya. Okay, stay home, stay safe. Enjoy your study. Okay, bye.
Bye, Doktor. Thank you.
Thank you, Doktor.
Thank you, Doktor.
Thank you, Doktor.